What's up, you guys? Teddy Striker here, and I just watched UFC Fight Night Henry Cejudo versus Yadong, and the fight ended with an eye poke. It was pretty bad. Henry Cejudo said he couldn't see, that his vision was blurry, and he was gonna get hurt in there if he kept going. And I'm not really frustrated with the stoppage of that fight with the eye poke. I'm more frustrated at the UFC because last year they introduced these new gloves that were supposed to help slow down the rate of eye pokes, and we weren't really getting that many eye pokes of those newer gloves that they introduced. And they were also pretty cool. Like for championship fights, they would be gold, and then for Dana White Contender Series fights, they would be blue. It was just something interesting, and it did seem like it was slowing down the eye pokes, but the UFC reverted it back. I believe it was at the John Jones versus Stipe Miocic card, which I think was a mistake. I think the UFC should have just kept those gloves so that way we wouldn't have main events and then, eye pokes like this. It sucks, but Henry Cejudo, he wasn't doing too bad. He was losing the fight. He had some success in round 2 when he went into the southpaw stance. He was catching Song Yadong off guard with that jab, and then Song Yadong made the adjustment, whereas he wasn't getting hit as much with it in round 3. And he was landing some good shots and just winning the fight. So, yeah, it kind of sucks that it ended that way because you want a clear, definitive winner. Even if it goes all 5 rounds, you don't want to see it get stopped like that. But Song Yadong was most likely on his way to win that fight. But next up for him, maybe you can do him versus Chito again in a rematch. Or maybe him versus Umar Nurmagomedov. Who knows? But for Cejudo, maybe Cejudo versus Ralph Fon, or maybe Cejudo versus Aldo. Who knows? But let's move on to some other fights in the co-main event. We had a fun scrap. It was Brendan Allen versus Anthony Hernandez. It was one of those exciting grappling fights, kind of like Aljamain Sterling versus Movsar Evloev. Both guys were reversing each other. They were moving, doing some damage. It was just fun grappling, and Anthony Hernandez just came out on top, and he is one of the better grapplers in this weight class. Hopefully he gets someone maybe in the top 5 next, but that was a solid performance from him. Maybe you can do him versus Sean Strickland, honestly, but we'll see what happens. And then we had Ralph Fon versus John Matsumoto, and at first in round 1, it seemed like Ralph Fon faked a glove touch, and then he just got straight to work. Didn't really want to have a feel-out process, but he ended up dropping the first round, and then he came back in rounds 2 and 3. He did get away with some fence grabs. Ralph Fon, he just seemed a little different tonight. He was like I said, faking a glove touch and then grabbing the fence. It was a little weird, but he ended up winning. He had a great jab, great elbows that were cutting John Matsumoto, and his takedown defense could still use some work. But to be fair to him, it was at a catch weight, and maybe he wasn't really preparing for that style of grappling, but he still got it done in a good fight. But then we had John Silva knocking out Melsik Bagestarian, and I thought this fight was going to be a lot more competitive. I thought it was going to actually go to a decision, but John Silva is very powerful and dangerous at 145. The speed of those shots were insane too. He didn't want to, give him extra damage, so that referee should have stepped in, but, the referee, he wants to see violence, and that's why Melsik Bagestarian just got some extra shots. But that was great from John Silva. Hopefully he gets someone in the top 15 next. And then we had Alonzo Menifield versus Julius Walker, which was a very back and forth fight. It was fun. Good way to start out the main card, and that was a good win for Alonzo Menifield. Good way to hustle and keep up that pressure and not fatigue. But overall, it was a fun fight night card. It just sucks that it ended the way it did, but overall, it was pretty solid. And the prelims really stole the show on this card.